Thank you, guys. Okay, next off, I am very pleased to welcome onto the stage Dinosoft with their racing romance game on the Apple II. And no, the Apple II does not have HDMI input.
Better be better than mine did.
Did you manage to hook it up to the projector though?
Hi, I'm Steve, and yes, I'm the idiot who decided it would be a great idea to write a game for the Apple II. I'm proud to say I did all the programming, all of the artwork, all of the music, and absolutely everything myself, and trust me, it shows. When I joined this, I told Mike I would have absolutely the worst game in the entire competition, and I'm proud to say I've delivered. Anyway, just before I show you the game, I'm going to give you just a bit of an introduction as to what this here computer is. I've got a whole collection of old computers. It's a hobby of mine. My wife kind of gets a little annoyed, but my basement is cluttered with them. Just specs on the Apple II. Designed in 1977. It's equipped with a 1 megahertz processor, a 6502 8-bit. With at that time actually it was pretty impressive. It had 16 to 48 kilobits of RAM and the equivalent of 1 kiloflop of processing power. You know, you think about the video cards now that are running something like 8 teraflops, and it's just insane. The Apple was actually very sophisticated at the time, and it did have a floppy disk with 140 kilobits of storage capacity. The graphics was 280 by 192 resolution in 6 colors, but there was a whole pile of restrictions. So you could have only certain colors and certain columns, and every group of 7 pixels you could only have 2 out of the 6 colors, and it was just insanity to program these things. The video was heavily interleaved, so that even if you wanted to figure out what pixel on the screen was, you had to go through a whole series of different mathematical operations. It actually took 40 processor cycles to just draw a single dot on the screen. The sound chip was astounding. It was a flip-flop. So the way you made sound on this thing is you actually wrote to an address in memory, and every time you did that, it made a click. So if you wanted to make a tone, you had to make a series of clicks. Now, the disadvantage with this is if you actually wanted to make music or some sound effects, the processor couldn't do anything else. You were making a C sharp, that's what you were doing. That was all of it. Game programming, you know, despite the limitations, there were some incredibly clever games. Choplifter, the first Wolfenstein, Flight Sim, everything was in assembly. People did these typically one-person projects over a long period of time with an incredible amount of fine-tuning and optimization. It's astounding what some of the people did, and they actually did some really clever games. The one I give you is absolutely not. It is quite something different, but you know, as a person who came into his own at the beginning when these Apple IIs were out, it was just amazed. I was amazed at what people could do with these machines. So here's a few of the games that were popular at the time. That was a Sublogic Flight Simulator. That was the forerunner for Microsoft Flight Simulator. So you can see there's some pretty sophisticated graphics on that one. That ran at about 2 frames per second, by the way. And I'm not exaggerating, it really did. The original Wolfenstein, some of you are familiar with the more recent Castle Wolfenstein. This was the first. And then one of my personal favorites was Lode Runner, which was actually a really clever and addictive game at the time. Very simple graphics, but very clever. So, on to my game. I'm actually going to run it in an emulator. It actually does run on this machine here, but it's a little bit painful to set up and run, so I'm going to just do it this way. that loose. The game is self-explanatory. And yes, 1,500 lines of assembly I wrote this weekend. That is absolutely bananas. Batshit crazy for me. Some of you may see where this is going. So the game mechanics are you can go right or you can go left. I've included some pretty impressive stuff like a steering wheel that actually turns. Now, I didn't figure that there was any realistic possibility that somebody sits the actual 8 hours to get to the end of this. So I didn't actually program an end screen other than what happens if you die of frustration and drive off the road. So we'll do that now. And that was the result of 48 hours and 1,500 lines of assembly.
So when does he claim the first place prize?
Steve, I don't care what you say. I don't care what the judges say. That is the most impressive game I have ever seen at one of these competitions. Thank you very much.